Well, good afternoon, everyone. How we're doing? How are we doing today? Is everyone calmed down now? Are we feeling okay? Has anyone had any heart attacks or anything yet? I certainly hope not. I tell you, quite frankly, I'm surprised that half the city has not wound up being on the couch of a psychiatrist. I know a few times myself, I definitely felt like going. It has been one hell of an election. Ah, before I go any further, we want to extend here at the Concerned Forum and Manhattan Neighborhood Network, we want to extend our definite sympathies and our sadness to the family of David Dinkins. As I'm sure you know, David was this city's first black mayor. A great man, definitely the premier politician of any color, a true gentleman. And I'll be honest about it, that's one of the things that always impressed me about David Dinkins. The man, he was the symbol of satirical splendor as far as I'm concerned. This guy could show up at a beach party, and I swear to God, he could wear a tuxedo to a beach party, and he would not look out of place. Some people, they have that knack. He reminds me as a matter of fact, he reminded me of my dad in that regard. But those, how we call it now, old school. He was one of those, I would say, old school gentlemen par excellence. And to me, coming up as a youngster, to me, that was what being a black man, a black gentleman, he was the symbol of what that was all about. He knew how to carry himself. He was well spoken. He was well educated. He took his time, and he was careful with his words. And he was kind. I think that's one of the things I'll remember the most about him. He was a very kind man. And when you think about black politicians in New York, especially here in Harlem, you think of David. Guys like him, Percy Sutton. These are the guys that they trailblazed for us, for black men and women nowadays. And we have to take time to remember these gentlemen and gentlewomen who put up with so much, who dealt with so much, and who fought so hard to basically make a place for us. And the brother was a Marine. What can I say? And this was at a time when the Marines were not all that friendly to black Americans, unfortunately. But he was there. And he said, by God, I'm an American, and I want to be a part of this. I'm going to be a part of this. And he was. So through our day, let's take a minute or two to take time and say a prayer for Brother David. I wonder what he was. I wonder what he's think. I wonder what he's thinking now about this election that we have been going through. Um, you want to talk about war? Oh my God! We have a president. Unfortunately, this guy Trump. He could have, and like most prominent people in New York, uh, he knew David Dinkins, and it's unfortunate that Donald Trump did not take notes from David Dinkins about acting like a gentleman, about showing people that you care. He could have learned. He could have learned something from David Dinkins. He most certainly could have. He could have learned something about compassion and about class. He might have been able to learn enough to win the second term. By the way, but I mean, have you ever seen such a thing in American history? This guy goes into an election and tells the whole world, hey, listen, if I win the election, it's a fair election. If I don't win the election, then that means it's crooked. So if you have 10 guys on a basketball court and 5 of the guys that you like don't win the game, then obviously the game is fixed, right? According to the logic of Donald Trump and his followers. If they win, then everything's fair. If they lose, then the game is crooked. Yeah, I know. It doesn't make sense to me either. But hey, this is Trump logic here. Now, we have to ask, we got to ask ourselves as Americans, is this the kind of madness that we would want to see for another 4 years? Is this the type of thought pattern that we want to see within the halls of our government for another 4 years? I think that this is something that we really need to worry about. And then this guy goes on a tirade. He wants to go on a freaking tirade. He wants to blame everyone. Oh, that's George Soros. Which, of course, people on the right wing, when they want to start the, quote, Jewish conspiracy, they call in George Soros. Yes, for George Soros and the Democrats. But you know what? What really ticks me off now, they're cooking up a new one now. It's the voting in the inner cities. Now, inner cities, that means blacks and Hispanics, right? That's the code word now. Blacks, Hispanics. You don't say blacks and Hispanics. You just go out and you just say inner cities. So George Soros stands for Jews. Inner city sounds for blacks and Hispanics. Okay. So what time do the trucks get to 125th Street to take us to the concentration camps? Because if you keep thinking along those type of lines, the concentration camps are not going to be too far behind. And see, that really concerns me. I think it should concern all decent people, regardless of color or religion. And as Americans, we really need to start asking ourselves, just who the hell are we? Now, I understand about 71 million people voted for Trump, okay? Fortunately, it wasn't the majority of the people in the country. But 71 million people for a guy that should have gotten maybe what, 2 million, 3 million people? I mean, for real. This is a guy, and I will repeat this if I live to be 500 years of age. This is a guy that puts children in cages. Now, it makes no difference to me that the children that he happened to put in cages happen to be little brown babies. That should make a difference. Brown, yellow, black, turquoise should make a difference. Americans do not put infants in cages. When you're talking about 4 and 5-year-old kids, it's a baby, man. It's a freaking infant. We don't do that. And when you're talking about giving women unwanted hysterectomies, you're talking about sterilization. So you're putting infants in cages and you are unlawfully sterilizing women who also happen to be non-white. Now, the last I heard, such things are not nice. As a matter of fact, the first time I was in the service, my unit slept in a barrack that belonged to people that did that sort of thing. Most of those guys were hung at a place called Nuremberg. Are those the people that we use as a scale of behavior now? Have we sunk that low? Come on, people. I think we can do better than that. And I'm hearing this nonsense. Oh, well, Trump was able to get a portion of the black male vote and Hispanic male vote. Listen, that's something that really needs to be examined. I can assure you, no one asked me if I supported Trump. I would have definitely told them where to go. That's the first thing. Second thing, I wonder if these people know who they were asking. Because if you're talking about Florida, unfortunately, I have to say that's to be expected. Let me interject something here. One of the problems that we have in this country is that many of us, especially in the media, have forgotten what truth means. We have forgotten what it means to be honest with people. We have forgotten about history. We have forgotten about honesty. Florida, you have a lot of Cubans. As a matter of fact, I think that is I'm going to have to roll my sleeves up for this one. Florida, I believe that's the largest Cuban population. Cuban American, largest amount of Cuban Americans in the country. Now, you have to understand something. The Caribbean, it's a very strange and very unique culture. I know because I happen to be part of that culture. My mother is from down south in Virginia, when Virginia was Virginia, okay? When it really, truly was the capital of the Confederacy. My dad was from the American Virgin Islands, St. Thomas. However, when he was actually born a subject of the King of as a submarine base and as a lookout point for the Panama Canal, which they were in the process of acquiring. You know, we're talking about the turn of the last century. His father was from the Dominican Republic, okay? His mother was a French lady from, I believe, Martinique or Guadeloupe, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think she was from Haiti. Could have been, but as I said, she was from one of the French islands. Me, myself, I'm born and raised here in New York. So as a child of the diaspora, I have kind of a, unique insight into the Caribbean. Now, Cuba, as Fidel Castro used to say, is an African land. When he took over Cuba, as he said, Afro-Cubano. Cuba was the largest slave depot in the Western Hemisphere in the 1600s and 1700s. Now, that's a fact, okay? And it's a mixed culture, but what people forget, and the Democratic Party needs to brush up on their history, you cannot treat all Hispanics the same. Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba, they're all different. They all have somewhat different, historical backgrounds. Mexico, Nevada, they have certain things in common, but they also have certain things that they do not hold in common. Cuba, or I should say Cuban Americans, have a different identification. For example, they are bitterly anti-communist because they're still very sore about what happened with the Castro family and the way Castro was able to take over Cuba. Castro did a lot of things that were wrong. He did some things that were right, but he did some things that were wrong. He was a dictator, in other words. Dictators do what dictators do. That's the problem. They received a lot of help from the United States government when they came over here. The CIA made sure of that. And so they have their own outlook in terms of government, which I kind of wonder about that, because why would, I would like to ask Cuban Americans in Florida, why would you support Donald Trump? Why would you support somebody that basically is trying to do the same, or has done the same thing in the United States or to the United States that Castro did to Cuba? I don't get that. I really don't. Well, I understand you say Castro was a bad man. Castro basically used Cuba as, for him and his family, their own private bank account. Okay. Well, we now know the Trumps have done the same thing. So why would you support this guy Trump and tell me that you don't like Castro? I don't get that. I really don't. Castro did send troops to fight the racist apartheid regimes in South Africa and Rhodesia and what was formerly Portuguese Angola and Mozambique. So, I don't know. There's a lot there to dissect. But see, this is what I mean when I say when people don't know history, when they don't know their own history, they leave themselves wide open to be taken advantage of by any demagogue that comes along. And that is a lesson for my Cuban American brothers and sisters, and it should be a lesson for my white American and black American brothers and sisters. Know yourself. Because if you don't know yourself, others will take advantage of your lack of knowledge. And that's what has happened in this country. Now, as far as this business about a certain segment of black men supporting Trump, I don't believe that that's a problem. Now, I truly don't. However, I do believe that if the Democratic Party does not make moves to address what could be possibly a very bad problem in the future, yeah, we could be playing with dynamite come next presidential election. And we will see the beginnings of that in the next congressional elections. If the Democratic Party does not start making moves to address that, and if they are not seen to be making moves to address that, because you have black men out there now who are not as familiar with their history as they should be, number one. Number two, these brothers feel excluded. They feel left out. And look, if you want to stay ignorant, don't watch this show. If you want to be lied to, don't watch this show. You know the old expression, ignorance is bliss? That means to be ignorant is to stay happy and dumb. Okay? If you want to stay ignorant and dumb, don't watch this show. But if you want to learn something, this is the place to be. A lot of the things that I'm saying to you hurt. All right? Knowledge is powerful, but sometimes knowledge can also be painful. And you have a lot of black men in this country, especially in urban America, who are in real pain. And their pain is not that much different from a lot of the pain that a lot of young white males feel. And it needs to be addressed. And the Democratic Party needs to start doing that. In the black community, black men see a lot, they see black women being helped to make progress with various programs and, things of that nature. And guess what? That's good. Damn good. And it should have been happening years ago. And when it was happening in the little increments years ago, 20 years ago, it wasn't enough. And a lot more should have been done. That's fine. It's wonderful. The thing is that you should have been doing stuff on a large scale for black men also. And that was not being done. It was not being done. And when you start talking about this business, because I can tell you, in 2016, worst thing the Democratic Party did when you ran Hillary Clinton, because I can tell you right now, a lot. Now, I did. And I'll be quite frank about it. The only reason I was able to vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016 was because of the fact that I had served over 24 years in the military. And not just served in the military, I had served those 5 years with DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, and doing the top secret work that I did in the White House, in the Pentagon. And I was terrified at the thought of Donald Trump having access to all that top secret material. And as you can see, with what people are saying now, I was correct. Okay, we're worrying about now what could Trump do? What could the guy with a lack of character that Donald Trump has shown he has or doesn't have? What could he do now that he's no longer president? And he's, this guy is forever, in debt for like $400 million here. Who knows for how much over there? I mean, this guy basically has a secret to time itself. Being president of the United States is no joke, what you have access to. The things that went through my hands when I was in DIA, and hey, I was just a petty officer, okay? So I can imagine on the level of the president, I had to vote for Hillary Clinton. But the average person will never have, will have never had the access to certain things that I did. And I think you will find that most people that had access to certain levels of information, for example, had been at certain places in government, they also more than likely voted for Hillary also, as opposed to Trump in 2016. But it was a mistake to run her because the average person wouldn't see it like that. And I can tell you, most of the black men that I know did not vote for Hillary Clinton. Most of them did not vote. And yes, I knew a few that did vote for Trump, because of the fact of what I'm talking about right here and now. They felt that they were basically, it's not so much mistreated by the Democratic Party, but just ignored. And to tell you the truth, there have been times since I've been out of the Navy that I felt like that myself. That's just the way it is. And the Democratic Party needs to work up. They really need to work on that. They truly do. I try to let black men know that when you give your vote to someone like Donald Trump, or when you do not vote for the people who are in opposition to him, you are working against your own best interest. But sometimes people feel so hurt. They feel so left out that they just don't, they just say the hell with it. They say, well, the hell, I'm voting for this guy. I just don't give a damn. Or they say, well, the hell with it. I'm not voting at all. Screw it. And see, that's the way it is. And the Democratic Party is going to have to relate to that. Another thing, talking about this past election, stop attacking the squad. Stop attacking AOC. Knock it the hell off. What's this woman's name in Northern Virginia? Spanberg? Knock it off. Because all the people that believe in expanding Medicaid, fighting, for the environment, things of that nature, they got reelected. The people that did not get reelected are these wishy-washy, when you come across wishy-washy moderate Democrats. Those are the folks that don't get reelected. Why? Because if you're going to be a Republican, then be a Republican. But don't be out there, wishy-washy in the middle. People don't need that. We have, unfortunately, a Republican Party. We've already got one group of nuts out there. They don't need you. Working class people need a party that's going to represent them, period. They need an FDR style working class Democratic Party. They don't need Republican light. See, all you're doing is you are the ones who are hurting the Democratic Party. And you need to stop that, because at the end of the day, what do you stand for? What do you believe in? What are you willing to fight for? Excuse me. And this whole thing came in with this Clinton business, this non-confrontational, being willing to compromise at any price. And see, that's what turns people off. Look, when I was in the Navy, I was a kickboxer. And you know what I learned? If you're not willing to take a hit, don't get in the square. Don't get in the dojo. Don't get in the fight. Period. Sometimes you're going to get your ass kicked. But that's why it's called fighting. If you are not willing to risk it, then don't fight. Seriously. Then you should not get into politics. Because that's what it's there for. It is there to have a nonviolent clash of ideas, just like a jury trial. Two sides clash verbally with ideas, right? One against the other. And people have the opportunity to sit back and watch these two sides, these ideas go at each other. And that's what happens. That's how we learn. But there has to be two ideas, two different sides to go up against each other with. If you're not presenting anything, then why should anybody vote for you? And see, that's the thing that moderate Democrats, they don't get, they don't understand. In this day and age, people want to have something that they can hold on to. This idea, Medicaid or Medicare for all, why is that such a terrible idea? Why is the concept of every American being able to take care of their health, why is that such a criminal idea? Oh, it's socialist. Oh, it's part of the Red Menace. They're going to kill Santa Claus next. Come on. You see, that's what happens when you do. This is what happens when you work to keep people ignorant, when you work to keep people without knowledge. Then you can scare people with words. And see, honestly, this is right out of the Nazi playbook. You scare them with words, not truths, but words. Oh, it's socialism. Yeah, I'll give them the old, let's give them the old socialist tactic, all right? That will scare them good. So that they'll chase the Democrats to the hills because they'll be so scared of socialized medicine. Listen, I want the next person that tells me that they're afraid of socialized medicine, I want to tell them, go in your wallet, take out your Social Security card, and tear it up. Just tear it right up. Tear it the hell up. Why? Because Social Security is a socialist tool. Oh, yes, it is. It's part of the program that a guy named, I believe, Bismarck, back in the 1880s, 1890s, came up with in Germany for the German workers. Look, socialism is about government doing things for folks that we cannot do as an individual. That's all it means. Nothing else. Now, somebody's going to tell you about Venezuela and what happened in Venezuela. Well, guess what? Venezuela is a dictatorship. Why am I going to get excited about what some damn dictator's doing in Venezuela? Dictators lie. That's why they're dictators. Okay? I'm trying to get health care for every American. But in this country, they take advantage of what we don't know. They take advantage of our ignorance. Why is it that all of our allies have better health care than we do, with much better results? I mean, you don't have to take my word for it. You can look it up for yourself. Oh, and this crap about, oh, well, there are thousands of Canadians just lining up along the border waiting to come in the United States to use our health care. Bullshit. And Canadians will tell you that. That's something that's put out by insurance companies, but that's not the truth. Remember, what was this, about a year and a half, almost 2 years now, Trump was making his cracks, and as usual, and he said something to the effect of, one of his favorite subjects, immigration. And he was talking about, damn immigrants. And they're always coming from these shithole African countries. Remember that? Yeah, I can say shithole. This is cable, okay? They're always coming from these shithole African countries. How come we can't get immigrants from, like, Norway, places like that? And I think it was the ambassador from Norway. He was the ambassador or the mayor of Oslo, one or the other, right? Says, writes in the New York Times, says, because nobody from Norway is crazy enough to want to come to the United States. Number one, we're not giving up our health care. Well, that's true. You know, all this business about, we're number one, people want to, from around the world. No, it's not true. Nobody's breaking down the doors to come to the United States from first world countries, okay? I don't like this business about first world, second world, third world, all right? To me, that's very racist. But if you're going to play that game, okay, no European countries are busting their ass to come to the United States. You don't see in immigration centers, you don't see mobs and mobs of people from France, Germany, Spain, Denmark, Italy, Portugal, Luxembourg, Czechoslovakia. The only people that you see coming into this country are from Mexico, Central America, a few South American countries, and a few Eastern European countries. But no country on our level, or I should say on the level of a, how should we put this, regular first world economic country is busting their ass to immigrate, to come here. It doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. The only time you come across somebody with a German or French accent is if they're here on business. And that's about it, my friends. Doesn't work that way. In other words, people who come from countries where they have something, they're not coming here. Other parts of the world, believe it or not, live quite well. They live quite nice in Holland, in France, in Belgium. The job of a progressive in America is to try and bring up our country up to Western standards. That's the way I see it. If your mom or your dad or your best friend or your brother or your sister is ill, you're going to try and take care of them and try and get them on their feet. That's what progressives here in America, that's what we need to do for our country. This is our country. And we're trying to make it better. We're trying to make it well. We were great in 1952, but that time has passed. Thanks to greed, racism, and stupidity, we have fallen down on the scale. And it's time to start building us back up. But we can't fool ourselves. We have to grow up. Mississippi, places like Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, those are third world countries. Since you like to get into this terminology, those are third world countries in terms of education, in terms of medical care, in terms of diet. Do you know it's risky to have for a working class woman to be pregnant and try to deliver a child to term in Mississippi or Alabama than it is for her to do that same thing in Italy or Spain or France? Why the hell is that? Why should it be that way? And you got some damn politician running around bloviating about pure bullshit. See, there are so many different aspects to the absolute pure nuttiness that was not. I mean, Biden tried to talk, talk about the subjects, about the problems that we're facing in this country, but with so much silliness in this country, it's very difficult sometimes. You got, and I'm a former Catholic. I mean, most of my education was out of Catholic school. I'm a former altar boy. But I'm very ashamed of my former church here in America. I think that if I was in Europe, if I lived in Europe, I would still be a Catholic probably. But what I see here in America, I think is shameful. That you have some American bishops. They are so bent out of shape because the majority of Americans, they like Joe Biden. They like his stand on a woman's right to choice. He is not a burn down the house pro-choice kind of guy, but he feels that it's a sad thing for a woman to have to go through if she chooses to decide to have an abortion, but that's something that it's best left between her, her doctor, and her spiritual advisor. And I can't see anything more American than that. And, that's another problem that we have in this country. We have it's too religious. and not enough spirituality. There's a big difference between religion and between spirituality. I am not religious at all. I attend services as a Unitarian. And I can hear the grumbles out there in the audience. Oh, well, that means he's not religious at all. Well, I guess you're right. I guess I'm not. Like I say, I attend Unitarian services. Right? When I wanted to go in the military, I joined the Navy. Okay? I don't believe in the idea of somebody mandating my spirituality, but that's a whole other different story. But see, the last time I read the Constitution, we're not a theocracy. And I think we need to get back to that. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, this country was founded as a repudiation to organized religion. And the guys that founded it were deists, as far as I can recall. Jefferson, Ben Franklin. These people were no great friends of organized religion. Don't take my word for it. Read their writings, and they know that. These American bishops, they know that. They didn't want to see popes and everything running around, basically telling people how to live. And we need to get back to that. And the Republican Party originally was set up to be a repudiation of organized religion to a very large extent. Those flinty, rock-hewn people from New England, yeah. So that's what happens when you know your history. People can't bullshit you. And they can't get you to jump up and down like some of these nutty, phony televangelists. You know, who the hell are you to tell anybody about God? Stay in your lane. You know, you want to jump up and down, you go right ahead, Buster. But I don't think you have any right to run around and telling people, well, God feels you should do it like this. You don't know a damn thing about what God wants. How you choose to read the Bible and interpret it, that's your business. And if anybody ever tries to tell you how to interpret the Bible, I will personally help you to kick their butt down the street. But I'll be damned if we stand by and continue to watch you clowns do it to someone else. That needs to stop. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent there, but it gets me so ticked off. But getting back to these American Catholic bishops, where the hell were you when those little boys were being abused? You know, one of the things that always angered me, in the 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade, I had a history teacher. And, penmanship and a few other courses, literature. And I was taught by the Irish Christian Brothers, and I forgot the order of nuns. But we had, one of my teachers was Sister Mary St. Raphael. Very slender, skinny Irish woman. Boy, she was tough. And she looked brittle. But boy, when she hit you, man, I mean, she could lay out Muhammad Ali. And wham! As a matter of fact, she taught me a few boxing moves, too. I'm not joking. That's one thing about the old church. Some of those nuns could box, and box good. Box quite well. And she was one of my favorite, not just my favorite teachers, one of my favorite people from those days. Because she always believed in me. And she was a good, kind person. And she was, the old style nun with the habit and everything. And She was good. We loved her. She was a beautiful, beautiful person. But see, that's the American hierarchy that I remember. These were the people, they would go down to Birmingham, Alabama, and Atlanta, Georgia, and to see these women and the priests, but especially the nuns. They would have their habits on, and you would have these guys, um, just like those ignorant fools that were in D.C. a few days or last week. But these guys back then, them clowns was for real, and they be snarling. They got their guns out, nigger, get back, hey, you nigger buggers, and all this kind of stuff. And the nuns, they would be standing there. I mean, like still, with the priest, and then you see a rabbi, right? And then you have a black minister, and they'd be standing, they'd be holding hands, and they would be standing there, and the Klans people, they coming up on them with baseball bats, and them people was, some of them people got killed doing that, and I mean, God, Lord, damn. Well, this ain't the same. This is not the same American Catholic Church. These guys, I mean, that brother that was killed by that cop smashing his knee into that brother's windpipe. Now, that picture went around the world. And that picture, it did more damage to the United States than I would dare say, almost as if he had taken out an aircraft carrier, at least in terms of propaganda-wise. I mean, I never want to see something happen with 4,500 guys. But in terms of our foreign policy, the damage incalculable. What that cop did with that picture going around the world like that. See, that's what I mean about Americans. We have no idea of our own importance, how valuable what we do, how we behave, how important the things that we do here at home are. We will never understand fully the damage that Donald Trump has done to this country, not just here, domestically, but around the world. Keep those two thoughts in mind. That brother being killed in front of the whole world, and Donald Trump having tear gas thrown at peaceful demonstrators so he could walk across a yard and stand in front of a church so he could hold a Bible upside down. He had to be gotten out of office. But what we have to do now, the fight now is even more important. The fight to subdue his ideology. And that, well, put it this way, this is where the work really begins. This is where the rubber meets the road. because we have so much work to do. I'm not quite, I don't know if we're going to be able to do it. I don't know if America 2020, 2021 is up to the task. I honestly don't know. Because so much hate has been put out in the open. I don't know. Now we know who our friends are. Now we know how our neighbors, a lot of them, how they really feel. I tell you one thing, education is the key. We have to realize where we come from and who we are. That must be done. Without that, everything else is a waste of time. Because if a man or a woman, if you don't know yourself, if you don't know who you are, how can you function? It's like being married to somebody, or getting married to somebody, or being with someone, and they don't know who they are. Well, that's the problem with the United States. So many of us, we have no idea who we are. And we have to learn. And a lot of it is not going to be present. A lot of it is not going to be pleasant. But it has to be endured, and we have to learn from it. We must. If we are to continue as a nation, we must. And basically, that's the name of the game. That's the name of the game. Folks, I want you all to take care of yourselves. Stay healthy. And we will be speaking same time, same place, same channel. And I want to thank you so much for inviting me in your home. And if you check me out on YouTube, please go ahead and that little check thing there when they say if you enjoyed the show. I'd greatly appreciate it if you check yes for me, because it would help. So take care, and we'll see you next week. And this is Bob Gumbs with the Concerned Forum. Peace.